This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. From the big plays to life's everyday moments, see it all in sharp focus with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. A happy Friday to you as we get into the weekend. Obviously, got the Crimson Combine coming up next Saturday. They did announce everything for it, and it does, I don't know, from like a very like sicko video person type of way. Maybe a good opportunity. Well, maybe a good opportunity to get some video of some guys. We do start today, though, the practice report. We're going to talk about Kevin Wilson. You had wrote about it on SoonerScoop.com, obviously, on Thursday, I believe. Or, yeah, I guess it would have been Thursday about his, helping out an offensive line that obviously needs a little bit of help, working alongside Bill Bedenbaugh as an analyst since coming in from Tulsa this spring. But got a little bit of breaking news, and not the best type of breaking news that you need to talk about here.
And you are on top of it. I'll let you take it away, because this is you are the one that has been on top of this reporting.
We'll see here, as it does not sound like Davon Mitchell's status within the program is in a good spot. And we did some reporting. We put it up on the Crimson Quarter on Friday afternoon, but certainly sounds like a situation for the 6'4", 275 tight end. Obviously a 5-star coming out of Los Alamitos High School via Allen High School, played high school ball with Michael Hawkins and Malik Hawkins down there at Allen, but certainly sounds like a situation that this is not going in the right direction for Davon Mitchell. We did confirm that his locker was cleaned out on Friday morning, and I think that the instant reaction to everybody will be, well, what the hell happened? And didn't play a snap a year ago as a freshman, certainly in a position room that he could have been able to help had he done the right things. And that kind of seems to be the theme here with Davon Mitchell, is he's been given multiple opportunities to, kind of wake up, for a lack of better terms. And it just seems like they got to a point where they had to make a decision. Does that mean that the door is going to be closed and he can't return? I don't know. I really don't know. But as of right now, it sounds like he's dug himself a hole that he's going to have to really, really do some good things and be at the right places, because I do think that that's kind of a theme.
Issue.
Like he missed multiple team functions that he was supposed to be at, and I think that when you look at the the 275, and we had talked about it at the beginning of spring, I don't know if that's where they wanted him to be at. Certainly sounds like wasn't getting it done with Schmitty and Scott Kolick, the assistant strength coach. So it sucks. And obviously at a position where Oklahoma is in need of some guys. Never a good thing when you have to tell a 5-star or a former 5-star that maybe this isn't the place for you.
Yeah, and look, he did practice on Thursday. We confirmed that, but then, his locker being cleaned out the next, morning, this morning, so it's kind of a fluid situation. Certainly doesn't sound like it's heading in the right direction, so we'll have to wait and see. But it just sucks, because, this is a kid that I remember talking about him on the recruiting report, how big of a deal this was that Oklahoma was going to land him. And, I think last year we all knew it was going to be a tough year, making that transition, coming to school a year earlier than you were supposed to. But, as the year went on, not even get a snap, during the season, I remember, I think it was the Maine game that we're like, how did he not even get in the game in that one?
Well, and even going into the bowl practices when you were really light at the tight end position.
And we talked about, we thought he might play against Navy. It's like, what a great opportunity to get him on the field, let him see some action, and it didn't happen, and it just sucks. And then, honestly, let's just be blunt about it. When we went out to the first practice, this spring, you and I looked at each other watching Davon Mitchell, and we're like, that's not what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, I mean,
in terms
I
of
think that
weight, size, all that stuff, and
to
even
be
effort.
even more blunt, he was half-assing it. It looked like he was going through the motions, and to think that you're in a position where you could really impact the team if you get your S together, and then go out there and kind of go through the motions in front of the media when you know that the cameras are going to be on. It's like, man, I think they're trying to help you out here. Everybody's trying to help him out.
Yeah, and hopefully, like you said, we don't know for sure if he's going to, be back on the team. Hopefully, you'd love to see him, again, I don't think it's a second chance. I think it's a lot of chances.
Yeah,
but
I think that
maybe he turns it around and everything comes together for him.
It had been indicated to me that this was kind of a culmination of a number of opportunities to kind of wake up and get your head straight. And I think the final thing that I would say on this too is this is kind of goes back into what we talk about within the team. When you look at a situation, the teammates know. Your teammates know if you're showing up for things and you're doing the right things and being a productive member of the of the team, of the program. So sucks, but that's kind of where that's at right now. And Oklahoma goes into they'll practice again on Saturday, and then they go into the final week of spring football next week with the culmination of the Sooner Combine. Certainly leaves the tight end room in a little bit of I wouldn't even say mess, because we talked about the position, George.
Yeah.
I don't think that Davon Mitchell had even been in the swing of things here during the spring. So to say that this is a big loss, it sucks, because, he could have a high ceiling and maybe he goes on and maybe the light comes on and he is a contributor somewhere else. But to say that we were going to leave the spring thinking that he was going to be a 2025 contributor, I don't think that would be the case.
No, I mean, look, I wrote it in my scrimmage notes this past weekend, which was, it's gotten concerning that we haven't heard really anything about him. It's been Will Huggins, Jaron Kanik, Carson Kent. Like, those have been the guys. Like, Davon Mitchell's name has not come up. I know he hasn't taken really any first-team reps. And so, while, again, like you said, the ceiling's really high, probably higher than anybody else they have in that room by far. The reality was that he probably wasn't going to be a contributor for Oklahoma right now the way that he was trending.
Yeah,
so
it sucks. And, I think that there's going to be a lot of hell on the part of Joe John Finley, which I think that we've contributed to that. Not happy with where that position's at, but I don't think this is a case that I think they tried to do everything for this kid. And hopefully the light comes on for him and he's a productive member of, just society in general, let alone a football team.
Right.
Or a college football team. So that's where it stands as of Friday afternoon. We will certainly be monitoring it throughout the weekend and then obviously going into next week as Oklahoma enters the final week of spring ball. All right, let's get into a little bit of things that had been said here earlier in the week when we talked to some of the players, talking to some of the offensive linemen about Kevin Wilson. It's been great to see him out there working with the offensive line. But first, let us tell you about our good friends over at Roback. RHOBACK.com if you are so inclined. I see you have the polo on today, a little purple polo from Roback. The everyday shorts, I got mine on the way. If you're so inclined and you want to take part in some of the Roback on 3 partnership, all you have to do is use the promo code Sooner20 for 20% off. That includes everything in the store, the Delta Performance Pants, that I'm sure will be used here in the rainy weather that is kind of a miserable, cold, just nasty beginning to April here in Norman. So Roback.com, Sooner20 for 20% off if you are interested in that. And it's something that we both wear every day.
Yeah, and the great thing about Roback is they have stuff for all the weather. So in Oklahoma, that's perfect because you can get the polo for golfing, you can get the quarter zip. They have the hoodies. I know Bob has the thicker quarter zip as well. So the fleece, that's what it is. Carrie in my ear telling me what it is. But yes, they have all different sorts of clothing. And like you said, the shorts and the joggers as well, I know have great reviews.
Much like the Birdman. They fly in any weather.
Yeah. The Birdman.
Are you familiar with the Birdman? Not Chris Anderson.
That's who I was thinking about.
Yeah, would maybe sell you ecstasy in the back of some of the bars up on Memorial back in the day. That's old Thunder day, or I guess it would have been Hornets days. I guess.
Yeah.
You weren't alive, probably.
Well, he was on the Heat, really right? He was on those Heat teams.
Yeah, he was, but that was like after the Oklahoma City experience. That's Finn. I'm sure that you've seen him walking around. George and Aaron's dog is in studio with us today. We're going to have a little dog talk at the end, so we wanted him to be a part of it.
We'll bring him up in a second.
You did write about Kevin Wilson, and I think it's kind of been one of those underlying themes or storylines throughout the spring. It sounds like he's really certainly helping an offensive line group that can take all the help that they could get.
Yeah, look, Kevin Wilson's a guy, we've talked a lot about it on here, but he's, coached offensive line, obviously a very successful offensive coordinator for a long time, and is somebody that I think can really gel well with Bill Bedenbaugh. I think they have very similar personalities, that old school coach, but it sounds like he's kind of maybe lightened up in his older age, and I think also not even offensive line specific, but being a head coach at Indiana and Tulsa, I think he's going to kind of have that Matt Wells role that, if you remember a few years ago, would help a lot with game management and Brent Venables and things like that. So it sounds like he's doing a great job. And it's fun, Eddie. We've been out there a few times. When they do the individual drills, Bill Bedenbaugh takes one group, Kevin Wilson, Woods. Is it Woods that is the GA?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, Austin Woods takes the other group with Kevin Wilson, and Kevin's very involved. I mean, he's talking to guys, coaching guys one-on-one, and it was, a lot of the offensive linemen have raved about him so far.
No doubt about it. We talked to Eddie Pierre-Louis as well as Derek Simmons, and Troy Everett talked about Kevin Wilson a couple weeks ago. Here they are on the edition of analyst Kevin Wilson.
We all know that Bill B is, one of the most respected offensive line coaches. What's it like having another pair of eyes in Kevin Wilson, and how much did you know about him as an offensive line guy before you got here?
I did not know who Kevin Wilson was, but actually my older brother, he was talking about Kevin. I mentioned it to him, and he was like, yeah, I know who that is. And ever since, I talk to Kevin Wilson every day. Good coach, he brings intensity. He tells me to smile every day in practice, so every time I get to smile, I just be like, Coach, where you smile at? And we just smile together. He's been helping me with my game as well, giving me key techniques, little fixes to help me out and help my game.
I think it's a different perspective, but both of their coaching together is amazing with both their backgrounds. Coach Wilson is a really cool coach, and he tells you what you need to work on, and then you have Coach B, who also is a really good coach and tells you what you need to work on, but their perspectives are different on the way they coach, so I think it's awesome.
Very energetic. I love him. He's always coaching. He's always over there. He's got something. He's always got something to work with you on. He's very energetic. His introduction to the team got everybody fired up. Very passionate guy.
What was it about his introduction that got y'all fired up?
I don't know if I could say, really, but very energetic.
I would love for the Suter Sports Properties team to put out some of the video from that meeting.
It'd be awesome.
The team. That would have been awesome. And I don't know why I say Austin Woods. It's Clayton Woods.
I was going to say, I knew
Clayton Woods is they both played at Oklahoma. Obviously, Clayton a little bit younger than Austin. Austin was here back in the day. Actually beat cancer when he was here in Norman. So
they also look identical.
My apologies to the Woods family.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Ran into Clayton up at the Jones Assembly over the course. What was that?
St. Patrick's Day. Yeah.
Just like everybody else from about 20 to 45.
Yeah.
Was at the Jones Assembly on that day. All right. It sounds good, though. I mean, obviously, we talked about the offensive line last practice report, just in terms of Eddie Pierre-Louis and his emergence this spring. And, I think overall it's been a pretty big positive just in terms of the offensive line and what they've been able to do.
Definitely. And the reviews keep coming in as positive for that whole group. And look, I think that they have a lot of depth there. You have a Derek Simmons who's really asserted himself at right tackle, Eddie Pierre-Louis who's taken a big step from his freshman year. It sounds like he's really competing at left guard. And then you've got a bunch of young guys, Michael Fasusi, Ryan Foja. I know that, I have another story coming this week and just talking about, all these guys that are raving about them.
Sure.
Now, I think it's going to be hard for them to get on the field. I've been doing a little research. Drew Samia is the only offensive lineman under Bill Bedenbaugh to start in the season opener for Oklahoma. So I don't think they're going to start day one, but there's been some guys, Caden Green, obviously. Sure. A couple years ago, started for Oklahoma at left guard eventually at the end of the season. Anton Harrison, started at tackle in 2020. So it could happen, but like you said, it's a good problem to have when you have that many guys competing at that many different positions.
I saw Owen Hollenbeck walking around.
Dude, he's huge.
On I think it was Thursday or Wednesday. It was one of the days that I was running over there. I might have been right over to the baseball stadium, but I saw him walking across the street, across Lindsay to Headington. And it just made me chuckle because he kind of looks like Creed a little bit in a way, but it was like, that's Owen Hollenbeck. He had boots on, jeans on, short sleeve shirt. The weather was miserable outside. It was freezing. It made me laugh. Let's talk Taylor Heim, because I think that he's a guy that obviously was a late addition into the recruiting class a year ago out of Bethany High School in, I guess, Oklahoma City suburb, western side of Oklahoma City. Very interesting, though, because he's starting to make a name for himself. If you talk about anybody, and you talk about Eddie Pierre-Louis, or you want to talk about whomever making a name for themselves this spring, it certainly sounds like Taylor Heim is one of those guys that would make the list of, oh, okay, that's a development.
He might be the biggest surprise of the spring, Eddie. I mean, when you talk about, names coming out of nowhere, you have your transfers and freshmen that you're like, oh, okay, wow, they're, Elijah Thomas or a Giovanni Gibson.
Those were kind of knowns, though, right?
Right. Those, everybody knew who those guys were. Taylor Heim, I think, has kind of gotten forgot about. Really good player out of high school. Like you said, a late ad. They love his athleticism, can play multiple spots, and that's what he's doing right now. He's playing both Will and Cheetah, and it sounds like that's going pretty well. He's made some big plays in spring practice, and that's why his name has been a buzz. And one indication of that, too, is when the media talks to him. If you're talking to the media, you're probably having a pretty good spring, or you're somewhat an important player. So to talk to him, it was good. I don't think I've spoken to him maybe since his media day, when they do that, all the newcomers.
Yeah, like the newcomer media day.
I don't even know if he was a part of that, though, because I don't know if he came early in the spring. I'm not sure I've ever spoken to Taylor Heim.
I actually went to his house the night before he committed to Oklahoma, or the night that he committed up in, over in Bethany, kind of in the Yukon area, but really good family. And, the thing I would add, and this is just from his bio, but when you're talking about Taylor Heim, I think that the reason that there was such a intrigue from the OU coaching staff, 6'6", 221 is what he's listed at. He won the 2022 Class 4A state title in the long jump with a mark of 21 feet, 8.5 inches, and then helped Bethany's 4x100 and 4x200 win state championships as well. So very athletic and a very big body.
This is the ideal cheetah, right? Like when you have somebody that can run like that, is that physical, that big, can tackle, like that's what they're looking for at that spot. And so again, what does that look like? I know they love Kendall Daniels. Obviously, Kendall Dolby's coming back next year. What's his health status? But I do think you're going to see more Taylor Heim. Maybe they find a different role for him.
Here is Taylor Heim talking with the media on Tuesday just about kind of his journey going from scout team and then a little bit bigger opportunity here this spring.
I've just been working. That's really all I'm going to say. I'm trying to gain weight, get muscle on me, learn 2 positions as well. It's hard work, but it takes a lot. So, I've kind of seen both sides of this place, like kind of like the scout team side and then the getting some reps. So yeah, it's really helped me develop like that kind of pride for this place. I love this place. It's taught me so much about life. Just being a man, growing up. So.
And you've moved inside this year, right?
Yes, sir.
Or at least for the spring.
Yeah, I've kind of worked both positions.
Yeah. How's that going?
It's going pretty good.
Transition?
It's kind of like a big transitional, switch, but the coaches do a good job of helping me out. So.
What did you take out of a year like last year?
Just like I said, I've kind of seen both sides. So really just taught me to keep my humbleness about me, just put my head down, grind, get bigger, start learning the plays more.
You mentioned Coach Dreiling. What's it been like working with him?
He's awesome. He's a great guy. He's motivated. You can see it just how he coaches us. In our indie, he'll get out there and do a rep and show you just his intensity. So it's been really good.
To a man, every guy that talks about Nate Dreiling,
we got to get Nate Dreiling in the office.
They talk about him in a way. It's like he's a great coach. We love him, but we're just waiting for that day that he flips out on everybody.
He definitely has some crazy to him.
Yeah, I think he could probably still play. That would be maybe part of the Crimson Combine. Get Nate Dreiling out there in the Oklahoma drill. He can tackle me. He'll kill me, but he can tackle me. All right, let's get into a little bit more from Isaiah Satania. I know that we had heard about him or talked to him on Tuesday just about kind of where he sees himself. He talked a little bit about working with some of the other guys, Giovanni Gibson, Deion Burks, obviously. It sounds like those three might be, three of the guys that John Mateer's really going to count on. But first, you see the football. They're going to be catching these footballs. It is the 2025 official OU Jordan Fly Elite football. First time ever the Jordan brand signature, innovation, and performance and swagger hitting the turf in Gaylord Family Oakland Memorial Stadium. This is the official game ball that Oakland will be using this season from our friends over at Big Game Football Factory. If you're so inclined and you want to get yours today, all you got to do is go to biggameusa.com/Sooners. That is biggameusa.com/Sooners if you want to get the official OU Jordan Fly Elite football. Pretty sharp football, and it's, I don't know, it's just a good, solid football. I like it.
Yeah, it's nice. The red laces, I think, are a great touch. And
nice little touch. And got the Jordan brand on there for
Jordan
the first
brand,
time
you can't
ever.
miss it. It's a huge logo.
It is a huge logo. That's what they need to focus on when they're catching the football from John Mateer this year. I can be a wide receivers coach. All right, let's get into a little bit of Isaiah Satania. He talked about Giovanni Gibson. Obviously, he's made waves. He made waves basically from the first time that he's got here. But, I think that one thing that we did talk about on Tuesday is Deion Burks is starting to get his legs underneath him after missing a little bit of time with the turned ankle at the beginning of spring.
Yeah, and I think that was just they're being a little bit cautious. I've talked a lot about it, but, with all the injuries they had last year, especially at that position, they don't want to lose anybody. And, Dion is somebody that they think can be a big-time playmaker. They paid him a lot of money to keep him at Oklahoma this year after the rough season a year ago. So sounds like he's really turned it on. Like you said, Isaiah Satania, I think, is somebody that's going to play a lot for Oklahoma. And I'm really interested, how does Ben Arbuckle get both those guys on the field at the same time? Because I do think that's something that they want to do, because they're two of their best playmakers, two speedster guys. I think they love throwing the ball down the field to them, which, we didn't see a lot of last year. Not to say they're not going to run some screens and some different plays, for those guys where they maybe just get them out in space. I think you're going to see them throw the ball down the field, push it down the field a little bit with those two guys. So it's exciting. And then, obviously Giovanni Gibson's been kind of the star of the show so far through spring.
Here is Isaiah Satania, a little bit more of a wrap up from Tuesday with the transfer wide receiver, just talking about the room as a whole here during the spring.
I mean, I would say everybody's a playmaker. From the 1, 2, and 3 group, we're all playmakers. And, it doesn't matter who's out there. The ball is going to get pushed down the field. And like I said, big plays are going to happen.
What stood out to you about Giovanni so far?
He's a bigger guy, but he's really smooth. He runs really good routes, and he's just a smooth guy. And, he's pretty fast, pretty physical. I mean, he got all the tools. But y'all are going to see this season, he's a really good player.
Did you know much about him? When he was at Pine Bluff, because y'all were in the same state at all? Or?
I had played him. Arkansas had played Pine Bluff, and he was talking about our DBs. So I had saw that, but I didn't make the connection till he had came here. That that was him.
How dynamic can you and Dion be since he's been getting back out there?
He's a really good player. He's quick, fast. I like watching his routes. I'm a guy that likes to, I like to watch other people and see what they do good. And, he's an explosive player, so I feel like we're going to work very well together.
I know you both played a lot of slots, so I guess what's that dynamic kind of like on the field? Or you guys able to shift outside some and kind of get both of you on the field at the same time?
At my prior institution, they had me run a lot of slot, and, that's what I have on film right now. But that's not all I can do. I can move inside, outside, whatever. I'm a playmaker, so wherever you want to put me, I feel comfortable.
We were talking about it because I think you wrote about it in the story, and it was a story that I think that I remember at the time when it happened, but didn't remember the particulars, and kind of like Isaiah, never put 2 and 2 together. So basically the story goes, Giovanni Gibson was running his mouth a little bit before the Arkansas date with Arkansas Pine Bluff this past year.
Yes, he I think said in the media that they weren't going to be able to guard him. Arkansas wasn't in that game, and I think Arkansas took offense to that. And I think Giovanni ended up only having like 3 receptions for 30 yards, but I was talking to his receivers coach from Arkansas Pine Bluff, and he's like, go watch the film. And I went and watched, back some of that game. He's running wide open a few times, and they just can't get him the ball because they couldn't block Arkansas. But it's funny now that those two guys are on the same team, him and Satania, and sounds like, going to be 2 of their, top receivers.
Awesome.
I kind of love that attitude too from Giovanni Gibson.
Yeah, some kid from Arkansas Pine Bluff that, obviously his story's been rather detailed. You wrote about it this spring, but I'm telling you, it could be a really fun story if you get some of these guys to come along for John Batir here going into next season. Let's finish with, on the nightly news, Lester Holt will usually leave you with just a fun story, just a story that should leave you into the weekend with a smile on your face, despite all the news that we told you at the beginning. It's a fun story. Derek Simmons, we've talked about how big of a, I was about to cuss, MFer this guy is. He's a massive person, but he was talking about his Mastiff dog on Tuesday, and it's just mind-blowing to think how big this dog is. Here is Derek Simmons talking about his puppy, River.
Great Dane Mastiff.
Wow. How big is it?
She's probably my height on her hind legs.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How old?
2.5.
What's the weight?
Well over 100 pounds. I need to take her to the vet, actually. I'm kind of slacking on that.
So at dinner time, you guys eat about the same thing, right?
Yeah, I bring her bacon in the morning. She eats that. So.
Could you put pads on her and get her on the field?
I could put a helmet on her and some gloves. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Unbelievable to think that, like, he's what, 6'6"?
Yeah, he's huge,
and that dog can be at his height. That's
a big dog,
a little bit bigger than Finnegan. How would Finnegan handle a Mastiff?
Not well.
Has he ever been around one?
No, and Finn, I don't know, but Finn thinks he's much bigger than he is.
No doubt. So. Finn, can we get a little talk from Finn? Finn, what happened on 9/11? Tell us. All right, that's going to do it for the program. Good to have Finn for Mr. Is he going to take your last name? How does that work?
Yeah, he's going to take my last name.
Okay, Finn Stoya, George Stoya, Eddie Radosevich. We will see you next week as Oklahoma enters the final week of spring ball. Big, massive weekend here on the Diamond Sports side. Oklahoma gets beat LSU by LSU. They lose to LSU 2-0 on Thursday night, so they need to win a couple games. The Cade Anderson kid was incredible. 135 pitches and a complete game shutout. First complete game shutout on the road for LSU, I believe, since some schmuck named Paul Skeens. So he must be doing something right. But Oklahoma will try to get back after it tonight on Friday. We'll see what the weather's going to look like, if they're going to be able to play on Saturday. But as of now, everything is just scheduled as normal. Obviously, check Twitter, check the Crimson Corner as well, as we'll be updating throughout the weekend. So big weekend for Skip Johnson and crew. For George, Eddie, Finn, we'll talk to you next time here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.